The following footage is a compilation of the first season of a video review series for video games. And yeah, I don't really do these too much anymore. This was sort of a thing I did mostly to promote a Patreon I was doing to try to finish my first book, but you know, that ended a while ago. Now I sell that book on itch.io and Ko-fi and all those places. I figure might as well give you guys a little late Thanksgiving, early Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa gift by just compiling all the videos together. What edits have I done to ensure that this works as a compilation, you might be asking? I removed the credits of all of them. There is one video, the first Putt game. Well, not the first Putt game, the first Putt game I reviewed, where I directly mention that now dead Patreon, and so I will speak over it with text-to-speech probably, because that's funny. That will instead mention the itch.io and the Ko-fi, all that good stuff. And I even fixed an edit from a video where I kind of accidentally ruined a joke by putting a visual image like way after I made the joke. Don't know how that slipped into the final version of the original, but these are 9 reviews altogether. When will I go back to game reviews? No idea. This channel is only a hobby, not anything I do for money. So, yeah, I upload when I upload, and you don't have to be grateful for that. But if you are grateful, give a like and a subscribe. And also check out the links in the description to find out where to read stuff that I write down to show the public. It's a very interesting enterprise. The Magic School Bus, even today, is pretty much one of the most recognized and beloved shows from the public broadcasting service. The show took place, well, actually it took place in lots of places and time periods, but the show took place in a classroom of remarkably diverse school children, all taught science facts by a teacher who was voiced by a lesbian, which I am almost positive is the root fear of 1 Million Moms? The show was even popular enough that it has a Netflix reboot out now. And so, with this great legacy behind it, current, and ahead of it, I'll be real here, I always thought the games were a lot better. Now don't get me wrong, I genuinely have a lot of respect for the TV show. It's a nostalgic show for me, something I used to tape when it aired and something I tuned into even in my teenage years. I also personally think that its great reception and constant reruns helped my generation be more interested in science. I said this is one of the most popular things to have ever aired on PBS. This show was actually so popular it got syndication on other channels. I remember watching this show on TLC. It was the only show I watched on TLC. It's just, as I get older, the show is a bit too slow and a lot of the facts are dated. Now, the games. I find that the plots that they had for the games, due to just being very simple and straightforward, were more laid back for the gameplay experience. I could just actually enjoy the game while I was learning stuff. There is something about that just kind of flows better for me than most of the episodes of the show. But before we dive into this, I have to ask the ultimate question for all old PC games. Does this one work on a newer PC? Okay, disc is in and no problem so far. Seems like everything is playing just fine. I don't seem to be having incompatibility issues with a 32-bit version or missing a video or audio file. There we go.
Seatbelts, everyone! Click on a name or type in a new one. Then click on the Go button when you're ready to play. Click on a name. Click on it.
I can't wait to go to the wild animal park. I want to ride an elephant.
Now, the basic premise of this game is that a bunch of animals from captivity are now being released into the wild, but there's a problem.
Here's my clipboard. Now, where is that net?
We need a net at the wild animal park?
Change of plans, Arnold. I got a call this morning from my friend who runs the park. There's been a mix-up. 4 animals from the park were put back into the wild, but they were sent to the wrong habitats.
So, it is up to you to figure out where they are supposed to actually go.
I'm Weird Owl Factovich.
It actually took me a while to realize why this is dated, because it felt dated. Then I kind of realized, these days, A, they would have actually gotten Weird Al, and B, they would have made him an animal that didn't eat meat.
Dugong.
The game's not necessarily hard or anything. I'm not gonna accuse this game for children of holding my hand, but then again, you can also just click on animals in every habitat, and if they're in the wrong place, the game is kind of like, hey, it's very weird that this animal is here, isn't it? It's almost like it's in the wrong place.
Here's the thing about this little piggy. It's called a peccary, and it can live lots of places in the world, as long as the weather's warm.
Although to also be, once again, fair, there is a bit of trickery in some of the answers. For example, in this playthrough, I had a polar bear who was in the Himalayas, and of course my dumb idiot adult brain didn't realize that was a problem at first, even though it's not cold enough. The same with this toucan here in the South Pacific instead of the rainforest. The reason you're seeing a recording of just this clipboard instead of the polar bear actually being in the Himalayas is because that footage didn't take for some reason. Did you know that recording your own screen is really hard for these old PC games? I found that out. I'm a real YouTuber now. I lost frames. So I'll give it this. While some answers are a little too easy, some are things you really actually gotta think about. It all depends on what happens in the playthrough. It's not always the same for animals. There is a rotating cast, if you will, of choices. So how easy or how hard it is just depends on the luck of the draw. And at the end of the game, when you have all the animals, you get this nice certificate that says, "Congratulations, you did our job for us. Way to go." The developers of these games really liked minigames. Not that I can blame them, they're often some of the most memorable parts of these games, and this one was no exception. You see this screen here? You see this hub with the clickable minigames? These are just the minigames I find in the environment. There's even more in just
The back of the bus.
Onward, Penguin. Good luck getting home.
We have this food chain minigame, and that's pretty simple, you know, hey, which animal eats which thing? And you always start off pretty small, you smart out, God damn it. It always starts out very small, we're talking like microscopic small, and then getting a little bit bigger, stuff that eat plants and stuff like that. And then of course we have to move on to the meeting section. This is still a kid's game, so you can't imagine it being too graphic.
Crunch.
Oh, okay, oh, no, never mind, the animal just gets forward. Everyone saw that. And if you weren't ready to see that kind of raw emotion, get ready for this next bit, because it's the real weird bit of this minigame. The weird bit of this minigame is that the kids rap.
Start with phytoplankton. It's microscopic. Who eats it next? Well, that's the topic.
A penguin waddles in, it's dressed to kill, devours the fish till he has his fill.
According to my research, that's algae so green. It's really very slimy, if you know what I mean. You put a nut on the plate.
Oh, I'm 12 years old.
Then a mouse sits down and he goes to town, munching on that nut till it's downward bound.
No, stop saying nut. Oh shit, both of these critters eat mice, which is correct.
Food chain, eating down that funky food chain.
Now, as memes will tell you about the Magic School Bus, is that one clip with the salmon that kind of reminded you that this series could be allowed to do whatever it wanted if it meant it was teaching you something. So with that in mind, here's a mini game where you have to tell which animal made which
Welcome to the #1 game show in the animal kingdom. It's Scat Soundtrack, and I'm your host, Scat Stevens. Okay, here's the poop. Scoop. We have 3 categories: scat, sounds, and tracks. Pick and click on one of the question cards under a category and see if you can answer it correctly.
You know what? I'm an adult. I'm gonna crank this shit up to hard. Oh, it went to medium first.
Scat it is. Now here's a load. It's peppered with what once was a delectable combination of berries, leaves, and some fur from a ground squirrel.
Wow, I'm so glad I cranked it to hard.
Brown bear it is.
So I guess there's one more minigame I want to talk about, and that is this skeleton discovery game. In every single habitat, there are these bones, these fossils that you can click. So you're brought to this minigame hosted by
Sherlock Bones,
where you reconstruct the decayed fossils of an animal that lived in that habitat. While it is kind of weird that this is in every single habitat, it kind of fits. Not to mention that the 90s school bus games kind of like these fossil games anyway. I'm gonna spoil it for you, they do a very similar game in the Dinosaur one. It's just out of every single minigame, it is weird that this one is just straight up recycled. Every single habitat has a fossil game. All the other ones are just minigames that are completely unique to that area that you can then click later on in the bus after you unlock them. But this fossil one, every area has its own unique animal for the fossil. Oh, and no, switching up to hard does not give you new animals, it just makes more bones.
no need to pick a bone with you.
It's really fun to go back to old educational games like this. Magic School Bus was actually far from the only educational computer game series I had growing up. It's just a good idea to mix interactivity with what you're learning. Some kids just pay better attention that way. And I can say this with experience. There's animal facts I know to this day because I heard them in this game. By being more directly involved with what I was learning, it ended up being something that stuck with me a lot longer. And sure, I can poke fun at the wackiness of these minigames, but them being so wacky also helps them be a lot more endearing. The show got a chance to come back, so personally, I'd like to see the games have a relaunch too. Some of the games can probably just get re-released, some of the games would probably need a full remake just because of how some facts are outdated now. They had great reception then, they'd probably have great reception now too. Plus, it'd be nice to have a version of this game with all the video files intact.
What makes a bird a bird? This is a bird, and this is a bird, and this is a bird.
No, Carlos, that's just a picture of a black screen. So I realize you may have gone into the title of this video asking a very specific question. What the hell was Rita Rabbit? Rita Rabbit was one of the mascot characters for the Learning Company. Rita Rabbit had several different games, all of which played pretty much very differently. The main concept behind Reader, as you can tell by his name, was to teach kids reading comprehension skills. The games were actually pretty popular and created tons of spin-offs with those beloved characters. And that sentence is very relevant to this, because guess what? This is a spin-off game that doesn't feature Rita Rabbit. And it's a math game.
1, 2, 3.
Tally cat, she is a lot like you. She's wondering about what math can do. Come on along. Come on along.
Sorry, I'm silent. I'm just
Come on
vibing.
along.
Tyler's going on the math path, swinging into action.
Come on along.
Tyler's going on the math path, patterns and subtraction.
Come on along.
Tyler's going on the math path, fractions and addition.
Come on along.
Tyler's going on the math path to meet the math magician.
Come on along.
So instead of Rita Rabbit, the characters we get are Tally Cat, this mouse whose name I forget.
Hey, aren't you gonna chase me?
Okay, so I know by chase she means like, a cat and mouse thing, but like, that totally sounds like roleplay. I can't be crazy, right? Doesn't that totally just sound like roleplay? In my head, these two are now a gay couple, and that means that that's canon and you cannot change my mind.
Nah, I'm too busy counting. Aw, but what fun is that?
And Pop. Now, if you did play a Rita Rabbit game growing up, you may remember Pop as that pink thing with eyeballs that you clicked and then the guide popped up. For some reason, they decided to redesign the character for this game.
What fun is that?
Let me tell you,
Pup
all
actually
the things that
scared me,
numbers
holy
can
shit.
do.
He has now basically got the body shape of the Domino's Pizza Noid, and basically a little bit of the California Raisins. Oh, and this really weird, splotchy, chickenpoxy kind of disease looking look too. To say this design doesn't really work is true. Oh, and I should also take the time to mention now, sorry for the weird aspect ratios that this video will have the entire time. As you can probably tell from this bit of the footage, I actually have to zoom in because of the weird windowing that happens with this game. Although prepare yourself, because this is what the game looks like when I'm playing it. PC games are all backwards compatible, my ass. The objective of this game is pretty straightforward. As the song said in the beginning, you're looking for the Math Magician, and you have to go through 10 math lands until you reach the Math Magician. In the first levels, there are 3 activities you need to do to progress, and then in the second half, there's only 2 activities. Even then, activities is a bit of a stretch, as one of the first activities that you have to do in the first 5 levels is listen to a song. And I need to be real with you. The musical numbers in this game, as you could probably guess after listening to that title theme, are the best part of this game.
'Cause we love a pepperoni, mozzarella, ham and provolone. No, ricotta, what's the matter? Hey, I want bologna.
I put my best foot forward, I move inch by inch. I'd walk a million miles, it would be a cinch. I'm in my own backyard, measuring up my landscape. I'm a bat-tailed beaver with a measuring tape. They call me Measuring Mac, and I'm here to say,
You got 3, and you need 3 more. Then you got 6, but you need 3 more.
You and I, my mirror image, we live side by side. A left and right me, left and right me. Mr. Less and Mr. More work in the sugarcane store, and while Mr. More orders all the merchandise, Mr. Less tries to sell all the sugar and spice. But he can't see.
Guys, this is just politics, isn't it? Tag yourself with a sugar cane. As someone who grew up with a lot of learning company games, this is something that doesn't surprise me. Even in their lower tier games, the songs were really, really good. For whatever I may be saying next about this game, remember how good these songs are. I really can't take that away from this game. Please put these on Spotify. Another activity that is only in the first 5 levels are these storybooks. They're kinda so simple I don't need to spend that much time on them. You listen to the story of the characters involved in these worlds, and you just kinda click and drag things.
To help me plant the flowers, click on the arrow and turn the page.
To help us find pizza, click on the page arrow.
to turn the page and hear my story.
They're not as straightforward as just listening to music, but they're also not that much harder either. Simple and to the point, and kinda charming on their own. I feel like, I just want to say, if I got a postcard mailed to me and it was half of me, I don't think I'd want to go to that party. Once you get to World 6, those 2 activities I just mentioned are completely replaced by this activity. And this activity you could basically call the simple minigames. You're given a simple objective, which is just a math question. And then by getting the math questions correct, you get a point. At the end, you're told how many correct tries you got out of every total try. They're pretty quick and easy to go through, which also does mean, yes, this fun educational game basically has a test.
Which shape has less than 4 corners? Which one is shaped like a piece of pie? Click on a circle. Flawless victory.
But then you get the big one, the activity that is in every single one of the 10 levels. And it's the activity that is definitely gonna make it or break it when it comes to you enjoying this game. So something I kind of hinted at but didn't really explain before is that each of these 10 worlds involves one of 5 different types of math. Each one is repeated, but only once within a world, and the idea with these activities, being the biggest one, is to really drill into how these types of math work. There's one thing that really causes a problem for these games. Let's take the sugarcane one for example. You have to crunch the sugarcane up to equal this number here in the middle. And that sounds fine, but every number on the sugarcane on the left here has another sugarcane whose number will add up to that number. So you do have to do every single one. And then after that, you get to make desserts with the things. And yes, get as in you have to. And you have to use every single drop. And then after you're done that, you do it again. You have to do it a total of 5 times. Yes, the number is different between each of these, but it also kind of shows the game wasn't really ready for that, because on the very end ones, there's less sugar canes than the earlier options because they just couldn't get numbers higher than what they already had.
9, 5. What a way to make a living.
But that's not the real killer. This one is measurement based, and you have to make the correct size logs that you then chop, then put in place. And if you are off even by a little bit in placing, the game gets mad at you.
Can it go somewhere else?
Just like the sugarcane one, it is 5 times. All of these bigger activities are 5 times. Now obviously, kids don't have jobs, so they will have more free time to do games like this, but that doesn't necessarily mean they will have the patience. I know I did as a kid, so I'm not saying no kid will, but I am saying, even though this game does work on newer PCs, you should really be careful for how much your kid is going to want to handle it patience-wise.
Reggie Toucan is pretty thirsty. Let's make him his favorite tropical drinks. Just make sure each drink is different. To begin, click on the lighter token and drag it to one of the slots.
And then after you have survived all 10 levels, you go to the top of Math Mountain and discover that the math was inside of you all along.
I'm going to meet the math magician. I've learned everything you said. I can measure with an axe or shoe. I can multiply, subtract, and add. So where's the math magician?
Right there!
I can do mathematics. I can do anything I want. And I want to chase you. I'm gonna get you!
I don't really enjoy being negative on these edutainment games because there is an inherent value that we just don't see anymore. But in this case, I don't enjoy this game. I have a lot of fond memories of games that actually did star Rita Rabbit, and I have a funny feeling I'd rather go back to those. And I'll probably cover them myself sometime in the near future.
Ah, I've got just the right number of sugar canes.
Hey, Simone, want some more? Here you go.
He just magnetoed those away with his mind. It's definitely kind of weird to admit, or I guess pretend, that Doki Doki Literature Club needs an explanation. Doki Doki Literature Club was a game that was originally released for free in 2017 for both Steam and itch.io. The selling point was the fact that the game was a visual novel, but something that isn't a secret now, and wasn't really a secret then either, is that it's actually also a psychological horror game. It unironically became one of my favorite games pretty immediately after playing it. Finally, a few years later, we have Doki Doki Literature Club Plus. And as the trailer shows, that plus is new artwork, new soundtracks, and the biggest plus of all, a $15 price tag. Now, I did say that the game originally was free. However, if you gave it $10 or more, you would end up getting some bonus stuff. So with the way you look at it, Doki Doki Literature Club Plus is either $15 more than the original experience, or only $5 more than the original experience. And this obviously isn't including people who were so impressed with the game they gave the creator more than $10. One of those people being me. And the thing with the trailer is, the thing that did get my interest more specifically is, well, the fact that there is so much more additional content. Because easy to admit, since the game now does have a price tag, it's fair to say that the game did probably need a little bit more, especially since some people did complain that they didn't think the game was long enough, or even most of all, the game's creator Dan Salvato specifically mentioned that he never felt the character of Natsuki had enough to grow with compared to the others. So when even the creator thinks maybe you should add more to the game, yeah, it makes total sense and is way more justifiable that the $15 version, no matter what, is the one that has a bit more than the free version. And yet, on the same exact side of that hand, one of my favorite games is Doki Doki Literature Club, and part of the reason it is the way that game is specifically spaced out and paced out. So I already know ahead of time I'm going to like this new version of the game. What this video is going to be about is, well, which version of the game am I ultimately going to like more? Doki Doki Literature Club Plus is on Steam, the Nintendo Switch, the PlayStation 4 and 5, and there's the version I'm playing, which is on the Xbox One. It's also on the Xbox Series, but I don't have one of those right now, and I have no clue when the hell I am going to get one of those, so this is just the regular old base Xbox One. So upon starting the game up, the first thing I notice is this new UI, which imitates a PC desktop, which was something I genuinely was not expecting. I expected a different and new updated main menu. And by having this fake desktop, the game can stay exactly the same as it was when it first released on PC. It took the easy, simple, and kind of genius solution of just emulating a PC. And with this new desktop also comes all the new features. You can easily go to the music to see where the soundtrack is, which will include all the old tracks and all the new tracks. You just have to unlock them over time. And then of course there's photos where you get, the character CGs, the poems, and even some secret unlockable stuff. And the best part about all these are, every single thing that you can find in photos, you can use as a desktop background for the PC. And it even hits you an achievement the first time you do it. And when you go through the thing called files, you notice there's a light ARG going on in here as well. So nice bonus extra content stuff that builds up the world within the story of this game, while still not changing the story of the game, which is good. As I said, I can't really hide the fact this is a horror game anymore. And as a big horror fan, something that is kind of unique to the horror genre is that sometimes if you have too many answers, you lose a lot of the scariness because your imagination fills it in more than anything else. So to have more of this world that doesn't give you any answers to the questions you were asking in the first game, and it really just gives you more questions, that's a good way to keep building up the world. So originally here I'd recorded a bit where I talked about how the Nintendo Switch version, as well as the PlayStation 4 and 5 version, had received a patch because those earlier versions had some problems with save game data, and on a lesser scale to some people, there was problems with achieving 100% completion. The achievements wouldn't pop for that. And I was going to mention how Microsoft still hadn't approved the patch for the Xbox version, but as I was playing more of the game to get ready for this video, the patch got approved and passed through. So, that's not really important anymore. But I'm still going to keep in the segments where I talk about some pretty inoffensive glitches that I got while I was playing. I didn't see anyone else talk about these when it came to talk about the patches, so I'm not sure if these are something that are fixed or not in the current version. And also regardless, because they were so inoffensive, they're more humorous anecdotes than anything else, so I'm still going to leave them in. Now all of these glitches are stuff I encountered in Act 1, since, well, I can assume any glitches after that are just part of the game. And there's really only two that I got. One is one that honestly kind of came from more stubbornness from my end. See, there is an achievement for getting a perfect poem for all of the main characters. And despite the fact that there is an in-game cheat sheet to tell you which words are right for which character, and the fact that this game is around 4 years old, so that is easy to just find online, I just tried to brute force the right words, so every time I got one that was wrong, I just loaded. But because I kept constantly loading, sometimes the screen would turn black for a second or so, and one of the words would load before the rest of the page, and it wasn't even a word I needed, it was just the bottom left word for every single time the thing would finally fully load. And considering I doubt most people are probably brute forcing the way to get the perfect poems, wouldn't really be surprised if I'm the first person to mention this glitch. And then of course there's the second one, which wasn't a fault of mine, so it's more deserving to be patched out, but it's also one that I really can't take much umbrage with. You see, I was speaking to Yuri at this point in time, and I was like, this is a pretty good point to save. So I saved, exit out the menu, and somehow saving the game caused Yuri to just vanish. She just kinda evaporated out of existence right before my eyes. And then, right after that was when this line of dialogue popped up, which was so thematically accurate, I laughed so hard I almost fell out of my chair. And then of course that leaves the one last thing. So I'll tell you right now what I expected the side stories to be. I expected the side stories to be very short little things that just kind of gave us a little bit more flavor text with these characters. And personally I think that would have been just fine as it was. And instead what kind of happened was, well, sort of the same situation with the main game itself. It kind of blows away the expectations. For starters, they're not short. Each story is divided into 2 parts, as you can see here, and each part will run you about half an hour of time. Now, if you can call the main game the kind of visual novel that actually has more gameplay than some, you can call these side stories the type of visual novels that really are just there to tell you a story. There's no moral choices, anything like that really, it's just click when you're done reading. And for something that's just a side story, I think that's fine. That's something I really only have a problem with when the whole game is like that. Now the way to unlock these is by doing special poems in the main game. So you will have a connection to these characters before you start playing the side stories, even if this is the first time you've ever played Doki Doki Literature Club. Due to how these play out, you could almost kind of call them, say, side spin-off content that adds a bit more characterization and world building than the main game did, which really was all I was expecting, and yet the emotional resonance that these get somehow surprised me despite how fond I am of the main game. I will also say this, and I'm going to try to be careful with the way I word this, because even though it's an older game now, there's some stuff that's spoilery, and some stuff that I just want to be careful what I talk about here. The main game does talk about mental health, and the original game did get a lot of good positive attention and praise for that kind of thing, and some people didn't think it worked that well, or at the very least weren't super happy that some of it was just for horror. They felt it was kind of shock value-y. And I may not personally agree with that latter statement, because I really do feel that it worked especially good for what it was. I'm not really going to deride anybody for really wishing that the game just took them entirely seriously for dramatic effect, to really sit down and have this conversation, since some bits of the game really were very good at doing that. So without trying to spoil the side stories too much, this is the chance if you were that kind of person. If you weren't super happy that Doki Doki Literature Club in the latter half sort of just dropped a lot of the serious discussion stuff for mental health issues just so it could focus on the horror aspect of it, you're gonna like these side stories a lot. I think it was fair to say you were probably expecting the highest of ratings for me. A guy who thinks the original is so good it's one of their favorite games. But I do want to say, if you think that that bias is a little bit too much, I do still think that all the side content that is added here, it is very much worth the $15. Everything that made the original game great is here, and there's a lot of other stuff that thankfully make it better instead of just weighing it down by being too long or too needlessly added in. The new world building is good, the desktop ideas are really good. I really think the side stories are not just a great addition for me, but just so happen to fix some of the criticisms some people threw at the game. All in all, yeah, this is the better version of the experience. And the original free version is still there if you're a little bit hesitant for the $15 price tag. But for me, both are a 10 out of 10. And while I do still want to say, the free version is still there, so dip your toes into that one, especially since that original free version means a lot to me. I think I am just gonna ultimately say, go with Plus. Go with the paid version this time, because not only do you get a choice of where you get to play the game, much more so than the free version, I think the additions ultimately make it a stronger version. It's not weighed down like I was afraid. It's not slowed down like I was afraid. It's the exact same game with the right amount of improvements in the exact right places. This is still ultimately the visual novel that other visual novels need to really start taking some lessons from.
Dim your eyes. Too late.
Here we go floating anywhere we please, holding you tight as I can. You're safe as a honeypot, you always will be, and I'll be right there when we land.
Yeah, this is a much different game than the last one I took a look at. These days, the Walt Disney Company tends to license out when they make the video games. However, throughout a good portion of their life, they actually made their games in-house under the banner called Disney Interactive. And through that banner's lifespan, Disney Interactive ended up covering a lot of varieties of games. You had stuff like action platformers, you also had their take on like the Living Book series with the interactive storybooks. And of course, we have games like the topic of today's video. You had Disney Interactive Learning. In this case, they used the property of Winnie the Pooh to teach kids basic reading comprehension. And I do mean comprehension. The game's actually pretty wide on the spectrum when it comes to reading skills, but we'll get to those. First things first, we should talk about the game's plot.
Oh, hello. I'm Pooh, which is short for Winnie the Pooh, which isn't short. I don't think I've seen this tree house before. And since everyone I know already has a house, why, this one must be yours.
So yeah, after Winnie the Pooh grants you literally free real estate, you're tasked with playing a bunch of minigames solely for the purpose of getting furnishings for this new home. I mean, hey, it's not Rome into the Three Kingdoms, but it's pretty good. So we will cover those minigames pretty shortly. First thing I just want to do is, well, there's a bit more polish here than in some of the other games I've looked at, so I'm going to just dedicate a section to that real quick here. So as is the case with the other edutainment games I've played, the whole thing is, you know, basically hand-drawn with then the pixelization effect put over top of it. The difference is that there's definitely a higher budget than those other two games. Stuff like doors can open in certain areas, you can click on stuff in the background and things will actually happen. There's quite a bit here in many respects. And hey, that stuff in the background to click on, some of that even ties to the learning aspect of the game. For a lot of those things you click on, Pooh has a comment on what it is, and I ended up noticing after a while, they're always alliterative. Alliteration, for those who don't know, is when two or more words start with the exact same letter.
My furry friends play the flute and the fiddle. Two cute caterpillars go into the log. Shh, sleeping snake. Two beautiful butterflies come out of the log. How did the caterpillars turn into butterflies?
You Winnie the Pooh cultists like I am have probably noticed something that maybe not everyone else would notice unless they're super duper Winnie the Pooh fans. Words are spelled correctly. And for those of you who didn't pick up on it closely, notice on the bottom right hand of the screen,
the special red honey pot.
And look at it, Honey. Normally in this franchise, honey is always misspelled, Hunny. And yeah, that's a little charming aspect of the Winnie the Pooh franchise, but it really would have been super hypocritical to have those spelling errors in a reading game. That's also true for the door in front of Pooh's house. Usually, the ring also sign is misspelled to, well, it's spelled like that. However, one thing I noticed is that the Mr. Sanders sign above his store is still spelled with a Z. So I guess that's not a spelling error. I guess there's just some guy out there in the 100-acre wood whose name is spelled Sanders with a Z. Guess you really do learn stuff with these educational games, huh? Alright, so like I said, there's no real plot. It's just you getting presents every time you complete a minigame. So, hey, let's just plow through all 9 of these minigames really quickly so I can discuss what's good and sometimes what's bad about all of them. And we'll go area by area. There are 3 areas in the game: the west, the east, and the north. The treehouse is in the south, apparently. And in each one of these areas, there are 3 different minigames. And there's also 3 levels of difficulty. Difficulty being a really weird thing about this game, and we'll kind of discuss why. Oh, but one last thing before I go into each minigame. Most of them end up starting with a song, and they're all pretty good.
Hey, it's great to see ya! I'm glad you came around.
It's a beautiful day for us to play, but my other friends aren't around.
You can solve the crime every time. All you have to do is listen.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Sorry, headphone users.
R-I-T.
So in Piglet's house, he tasks you with matching the cups to the saucers, or the saucers to the saucers. Yeah, see, the saucers have uppercase letters on them, but the cups end up having lowercase, not numbers, there's no such thing as a lowercase number. Yeah, see, the saucers have uppercase letters on them, while the cups have lowercase letters on. Me, I keep wanting to say numbers. And he always wants you to match the letter to the exact same letter. It's just sometimes he wants you to match the uppercase to the lowercase, and sometimes he wants you to match the uppercase to the uppercase. It depends on the difficulty slider. And this game is one of the ones where the difficulty slider really jumps. Because I'll be real, level 1 and 2 really aren't that much different from each other. But then you get to level 3, and yeah, notice how many more places there are to match. You also have to do all the matches 5 times in a row. And 5 times in a row sounds familiar to anybody who's been watching this channel for a little bit. The same thing happened in the Rita Rabbit math game that I reviewed a couple months back. However, thankfully, not every single game in this collection is 5 in a row. Sometimes it's 3 in a row, and sometimes the game just takes so long that thankfully the creators have pity on you and they only make you do it 1 time per difficulty. But enough about that, let's just go to one where it is just 3 times in a row. And that is the minigame where you have to build a quilt so Tigger doesn't fall to his death from a tree. And as Pooh lovingly points out,
confidentially, to just you and no one else, I have never known Tigger to climb a tree less than 3 times in a row.
So yeah, you just build a quilt, a clothespin makes this microwave ding sound, and then you gotta do it again. Just 3 times per difficulty, like I said. And speaking of 3, that's also how long every single one of the words is. This is one where the difficulty really doesn't change anything. In level 1, you gotta find the first letter the word starts with. In level 2, the last letter that a word starts with. Whoa, and stand back. Difficulty level 3, you gotta find the middle letter that the word has.
Is that a pipe?
I knew I could count on you.
It kind of feels like the same no matter what the difficulty level is. Doesn't make this game bad or anything. I mean, it's still pretty cute and charming. It's just, if you were looking for this one to be the Dark Souls of Winnie the Pooh educational games. I'm sorry, that minigame is later. Alright, so now we'll go to the honey pots that kind of just blew some people's ears away. Yeah, this is a pretty simple one. It's Pooh's got a collection of honey pots, enough that I'm sure the vegans in my audience are probably crying, but you gotta put them all in the correct order. So yeah, we have our first example of what I can't help but call the more tedious ones. The ones that thankfully you only have to do once per difficulty, but you have to do it for every single letter of the alphabet. That's notably harder than 3 or 4 times, or even, God forbid, 5 times. But also because of that, there's just not much to talk about this one. It may be one of the tedious ones, but it's on the lower scale under the tedious ones. So why don't we just go to the higher end of the tedious ones?
Hey!
I hardly noticed you was gone. Got your share of the spoils right here, boss. Ready, set, and rabbit, go!
The fucking sign building game. If you played this game growing up, you know exactly what the fuck is wrong with this game. You have to draw letters on every single sign that Rabbit's made. Sounds great, right? Well, it's in the tedious section, so you already know it is every single letter in the alphabet. So yeah, over 20 signs, each time per difficulty. And it's a paint by numbers thing. You have to click every single dot so that way it creates the letter. Hey, does that really sound so bad? It already probably does, but here's what's worse. Say you're impatient, so you're just like, whatever, I know how to draw the letter B, I'll just click it. Oh wait, sometimes you have to click the same dot twice, as if you're doing this with a pencil, but you decide not to just keep going in one swipe, which is normally how you draw a letter. You're somehow taking your hand off and then going right back to where you were, so you had to click the same dot twice. So even if you try to cheat, too bad, the game's probably going to get upset at you, and Rabbit's going to yell at you. Shut the fuck up, Rabbit. I'm doing you a favor. Don't get so pedantic at me, and share your honey pots with Pooh. It's not like you eat them. I've never seen you eat them, and I've been watching this franchise since I was a child. I have never seen you eat honey, Rabbit. Why are you hoarding it like a dragon? Like, if you want my honest-to-God opinion, not that what I've been saying is really far off from it, like, the very little exaggerating I'm doing for the sake of entertainment. Like, this actually is very over-tedious as a minigame. The fact that the difficulty between 1 and 2 is literally no different. And the fact that, for 3, all they did was take the uppercase stuff and put it lowercase, as if that really makes it harder, this is bad. This drags the whole game down. This is the worst minigame in the entire collection. Anyway, this game f***ing sucks.
TTFN!
Eeyore's book. You see, Eeyore ended up making you a book so that way you can put it in your treehouse. And of course, because of difficulty, there's 3 of them. But in each and every single one, the corner's been ripped out. Look at this. Full sentences now. Instead of just one word, it's full sentences. This is why this is the best one of the longer ones. This one actually adds difficulty. There is something about this one that's still kind of charming, and you have to think a little bit harder than just, oh god, what letter comes after B? This is actually my favorite of the tedious ones. So, you win this round, Eeyore. Which is good, because you definitely need them. With the fact that 2 of the biggest tedious games are in the same section of the map, that's probably why the easiest game is in this section of the map. Yeah, so if you're familiar with the channel Tama Hero, you've probably already seen a discussion of this game and why it's shockingly sad, since it's just Roo playing by himself in the sand because his friends don't love him, I guess. But yeah, you get a sand sculpture of Eeyore, Tigger, and Piglet, and Roo ends up playing pretend with the stuff you click on. It's super easy. It's so easy, you might be forgiven for thinking that this one doesn't even have reading comprehension. But oh, look at that. When you're done clicking on the thing, it shows you, even with some nice fun colors, the sentence you just made. Congratulations, kids. You just learned what a sentence is. Reading comprehension. Oh, and by the way, boy does this game have favoritism. Eeyore and Piglet can sometimes not catch a break in the sections that Roo daydreams for them, But Tigger is always like the most powerful person on the planet in these imagined spots. Sheesh, Roo, I get it. You want Tigger to be your stepdad. There's better ways to go around it, buddy. Well, speaking of Tigger, he has 2 mini-games in the last section of this map. The first one is
Presenting Tigger's Jack-in-the-Boxes!
you click on the box, and Tigger allegedly makes the sound that a letter makes, although sometimes he just gives up and just says the name of that letter over and over and over again.
Z, zizzy, 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 z.
You have to do it 4 times in a row for each and every box that's on screen, so it's almost tedious, but thankfully the fact that you gotta pay some real close attention somehow just kind of makes it more engaging. And then in the very end difficulty, you end up getting letters that are combined together, which, if you're a very little kid, is probably a bit more harder because you might not know that S and H make the sound sh, or that C and H make the sound ch, but hey, it's cool that this is the final difficulty then. Then, of course, since we're still on this Tigger tangent, we'll go with Detective Tigger. This is definitely probably one of the more stylistically cool ones. Tigger has these old cases that allegedly he's never solved, even though after you listen for a while, they're pretty easy to solve cases. But then again, and that's the thing, this comprehension is listening skills. You have to pay attention to what Tigger is saying, because not only do you have to click and drag things onto the board, depending on what he told you to do, you also then have to figure out the culprit. And even though sometimes it's spelled out pretty obviously in the first 2 levels, when it comes to difficulty 3, there's a lot more stuff to put on the board, so you do actually have to kind of think about it. Or again, if you were 5, you have to think about it. I'm almost 30. I kind of figured these out like halfway through. I mean, I'll be real. I've kind of seen a lot more mysteries that are a lot more advanced than this one. Let's just say there aren't any autopsies in this. And then of course we have the last one, which is the only minigame where Owl is prominent.
A very wise choice.
Owl has decided to write a bunch of songs, and apparently Owl has forgotten how to rhyme?
Piglet has a nose, so he may smell a cloud.
So you have to figure out the rhyme for him. Let's just look at this one for example.
Feather.
Wait, hold up. The answer to this one is
rock.
And the adjective they put before it is
hard.
No one noticed this in the proofreading stage, that this game has a mention of a big, hard rock. Okay, fine then, whatever. So I guess that's just the lesson here, folks. Take Eeyore's advice. When walking in the 100-acre wood, take a good look out so you don't step on big, hard, veiny, throbbing rocks. Unless that's what you're looking for, in which case, I'm not going to stop you. More power to you. So like I said, the more of these minigames you complete, the more presents you get. And in all honesty, there's quite a variety of stuff. Rocking chairs, xylophones, those books for me are I mentioned. Heck, you even get a doorbell at one point that you can customize all to yourself. And you occasionally just get letters in your mailbox from the characters.
Do come by for a visit, but if you come by at night, be sure to bring a light.
Something I keep meaning to mention these educational games is I don't really recommend any of them anymore because I can't. I mean, heck, with this game, the loading screen doesn't even load properly anymore. It's just more a case of whether or not I wish I could recommend it. And that's definitely the case with Ready to Read with Pooh. Maybe someday Disney will go back in their game catalog and just decide to upload it on Steam. And if they do, yeah, go check it out. Ready to Read with Pooh is a ridiculously charming little game that is really, really good at teaching the reading comprehension in ways you might not even realize it's doing unless you're actively looking for them.
It's totally fantastical and magical and grand.
Yes, but it doesn't make the signs just right.
We need a helping hand.
I may be against the fur industry, but that won't stop me from skinning you alive, as long as no one wears the skin.
Poor dear Eeyore had a shock when he stepped on a hard.
Within the wheelhouse of the edutainment genre, the Humongous Entertainment Library are the only ones that really do get a lot of love online already. So hey, if I'm going to start covering these guys, let's go big or go home and let's talk about
Putt, Putt, save the zoo. Putt, Putt, save the zoo.
Putt saved the zoo.
So Putt was the one who was a car. As Putt the car, you go over to Outback Al here and find out that a bunch of baby animals have gone missing from their habitats.
You know, I'm glad you showed up. It's been quite a morning, all right. What with the zoo opening today, I've so much to fix. Bridges, boats, the works. But the worst of it is that some of the baby animals are missing. Can't find them anywhere.
It is not too different from the premise of the Magic School Bus Explores the World of Animals that I covered, quite a few months back.
Jackaroo, you're on! It's a list of everyone who's missing.
Baby Jumbo the elephant, Masai the giraffe, Kenya the lion cub, Zanzibar the hippopotamus, Sammy Seal, and Little Skeeter the snake.
So Outback Al entrusts us on finding all of these baby animals and bringing them back to their habitats nice and safe. And if we can't, we sell them as jerky. Now the first thing we should do is go over here to the snack cart.
Hi, Putt.
Hi, Chuck Wagon.
Believe it or not, 2 of the answers for the puzzles are in this snack cart area, so I might as well start here every single time. Oh yeah, also, the cotton candy! There is apparently an Easter egg that you can get by debugging the files, where if Putt just continuously eats, I think 7 or 8 of these cotton candies in a row, he gets sick and throws up on the floor. Now, I'm not really that much of a programmer. I mean, after all, if I was, I wouldn't be playing this game this month. I would have been playing Toy Story Activity Center. But my computer doesn't really recognize the disk, so until I find out how to emulate Windows 95 or 98 or whichever the disk needs, I'm probably going to be covering humongous games when it comes to these edutainment reviews for a little while now. So hey, if you're interested in helping me pick which ones to play, or even just like shoot me a message on how to make these old games work, and then which of these old games I'll play next when I can make those work, you can always
go and buy one of my manuscripts on itch.io or Ko-fi. When you purchase something, you're allowed to send me a suggestion of a movie to make a video on, but I can't promise anything as these are just a hobby, but I will try and take suggestions seriously.
Oh, right, the baby animals, yeah, gotta go save them.
Cool cameras, Patty.
Take it, Putt. The cameras are free, 1 per customer.
Hold on, before we do that, Putt has to get this camera so he can take some pics for his premium Snapchat. People these days and monetizing their hobbies. Alright, let's get to the savannah area first. And after we consume this log into our very being, we have to solve the hardest puzzle in this entire game. What color do we paint Putt? Wish I was being facetious, but this is actually kind of the hardest bit of the game for me after all these playthroughs. There are just enough colors to make the selection interesting, but also just few enough colors that I'm now suddenly wishing I could paint Putt like gray or black or brown or pink. Again, not really much of a hacker or a debugger. If the modding community has put some more paints in here, please let me know. Would love to play Putt Saves the Zoo with a really gray looking Putt. Screw it, let's go.
Fire engine red.
Well, now he looks like a hot dog. If you're wondering why I said the painting bit is the bit that's the hardest to figure out, that's because I kind of know where all the animals are every single time I play this one now. When it comes to the tier list of difficulty for these humongous games, Putt was basically square in the middle. He was definitely made for kids older than the age bracket for Buzzy the Knowledge Bug and the Big Thinkers. Maybe exactly where that one Fatty Bear game was. But he was definitely also made for a younger crowd than Sam or Fox or Freddi. As such, Putt didn't really embrace the whole branching narratives thing that the big 3 did. Off the top of my head, I can really only remember 2 games in the Putt library where sometimes the puzzles were different. For the most part, the puzzles were the same every single time. And I'm not even necessarily saying that that's a bad thing, because the game is still charming in its own way on its own, but the replay value for me isn't really here as much as some of those other ones, despite the fact that this is one of the better Putt games. So yeah, the animals are in the exact same place every single time. Sammy the seal is always in this little puddle. Zanzibar the hippo is always on this one iceberg. Baby Jumbo is always being fronted on by this mouse. Masai the giraffe is always stuck behind this rock. Skeeter the snake is always freezing his dick off in the Arctic. And then Kenya the lion cub is always... How?
Somebody help me.
Now you may be thinking I might talk about how to solve these puzzles, as in a lot of the edutainment games I've reviewed, well, all of them basically, I've actually talked about, you know, how the plot ends and everything. But that's because these games aren't really readily available anymore. Well, those games. The Humongous Library is actually on Steam. You know, the thing I said I wish would happen to the Ready to Read with Pooh game? So since these are readily available, I don't really want to spoil the puzzles, as you can actually go back and easily play them. But for clarity's sake, sure, let's actually give you the solution to one of these puzzles. Let's go with Skeeter the Snake. Remember what I said about that snack cart earlier? What you want to do is you want to grab this thing of hot chocolate. And even though that hot chocolate has been in your glove compartment for, who knows, maybe an hour at this point if you really wasted time, it's still warm enough to warm up the snake. Now, a fun fact about snakes tend to eat about once a month or once a week, I think in the case of boa constrictors.
Because boas are slow-moving snakes, they only need to eat about 1 meal a week.
And there is no way that there's enough nutritional factor in hot chocolate to sustain this snake for the whole week. I guess we know who's gonna become jerky. It's puzzles like that save every single one of these animals. They're all very safe and straightforward, and like I said, there's no variation. If you want to be very pedantic, when it comes to Sammy the seal here, there is one tiny, slight little variation. You see the lock on the dam there? You have to unlock that with a winch. No, a winch, that's a lady. That's always unlocked with a power wrench. And the power wrench is in this red toolbox that is always in the exact same area. However, the specific nut that you need to open the dam, the shape is different depending on how many times you play. Again, that's as much for variation. It's always in the same place, and all the specially shaped bolts are in the same toolbox. So, yeah, variation, I guess. No, your eyes are not deceiving you, and no, your computer has not stopped. You can just sit here and look at Putt all dumbfounded as he does not do anything. He is waiting for your input to click on the dam, and if you refuse to click, he will just stand here forever. Hey, whoa, hang on, I didn't click anything. Putt, stop it, you're ruining the bit. How about that fun side stuff? The Humongous games were famous for extra bits you could click on, finding mini games, and just funny things in the background. So hey, what are those mini games and funny things to click on in the background? You can go over here to these Beat Poet monkeys, and they'll start doing their thing.
How about hopscotch? Hopscotch.
Here, I got one.
Come on.
You're so top-notch, playing hopscotch. I timed you with my stopwatch.
Oh, that was good.
Oh, hopscotch.
Okay, legit, this is better than every single poetry slam I have ever been to.
Smile!
And hey, if you've played this game even once, I think you'll remember the topiary creatures.
We are the topiary creatures. I haven't written this verse yet.
The original team who made the soundtrack actually remastered it and put it on Bandcamp for only about $10. And my plan was to buy it to put it in the video, because that was in the budget. Until the lens popped out of my fucking glasses. I'm actually editing and recording all this stuff without my glasses on too. So sorry if anything looks weird, I can't see. Also, when you go exploring around, you can actually find the parents of these animals. If you do it after you've saved them, you'll see them all hanging out, having a good time, so happy you reunited them. But if you go before you've done that, congratulations, you're about to see the saddest things you will ever see in your life.
I hope my little girl comes home soon. I'm so worried about her.
Where can you be, Kenya?
Whoa, sure as heck is me.
Oh, where is my baby? Little Skeeter, where are you? Have you found my little Skeeter? I miss him so much, it makes me weep. Say cheese.
Fantastic!
Minigame time. You got this one mix and match / hide and seek style game. I don't really know what the genre is, it's just this bird thing comes up and it's like,
You got time for a game of animal tag? Why don't you pick a level to start at? Look out for 6 cheetahs and 5 gazelles.
am I doing good? I can't tell, I can't see anything. Then over here you've got this polar bear who wants to play hockey.
We're underway again!
And yeah, if you couldn't tell from just looking at it, it's Pong. It's just straight up classic style Pong. It's actually pretty responsive, and I only just realized playing this time, if you hold the left click down, Putt actually does hold the hockey puck if he has it before hitting it. As a kid I always just kind of hammered it, and muscle memory was happening until this time, so I always just kept hammering it. It's fun and it's straightforward, although it's not super complex. In fact, usually after I get 2 goals, sometimes just 1, I usually end up leaving. It's just not that deep. But hey, if you want a side game in a bigger game where you play hockey as a character who is purple... Oh wait, hold on, Spyro 2 exists. And this one I just gotta talk about because something's a little bit off about this one. You can go whitewater rafting in the raft that you fix after you unconsume that log you found. And there's no consequence to this. You just go all around. If you decide to do nothing, Putt will just make up his mind. Even in this one bit that really feels like it needs input to happen, no matter which way you go, it's always the right way. You always end up in the exact starting spot where you were. Even if you drown in this whirlpool, even if you go into this little inland where there's a reference to Deliverance, and no, I'm not making that up.
That wasn't scary one bit. It was terrific.
It reminds me of the car chase section in the first Spy Fox game, except you can fail that. Sure, your progress just gets reset because there's no game over screen, but you can still fail it. That's why I kind of have a problem with this one. I did look up to see if there's just missing content or if stuff wasn't finished, and the wiki didn't say anything about this section, but I'm sorry. I know I'm not exactly a game developer or anything, but this section screams cut content. I really feel like there was supposed to be something here, more so than just a reference to an R-rated movie and a cameo by Freddi and Luther. But yeah, that's Putt Saves the Zoo. Out of all the Putt games, this is one of the better ones. When it comes to Putt, look, I was a bigger fan of his peers, more so than him. But a good Putt game is still charming and pretty robust, and there's a lot of stuff to do, even in these ones where you don't really get too much variation. Next one I cover will be one of the ones where the puzzles can change up.
You must be little Peter. I'm freezing.
Get your tires put on and tune your engine up.
I promised in my last Putt video that I'd follow up with one that had different solutions to the puzzles on future playthroughs, and while I'd bet a lot of you expected travels through time, I felt it's best to go with the Putt game that seems partially forgotten.
Putt enters the race.
You've also likely realized that you are not hearing my voice today, you are instead listening to the dulcet tones of Microsoft Mark. All of my last videos had audio problems ranging from a weak microphone connection to a background radiator clang, so I'm doing something different for the sake of consistent audio. This is also the closest thing you're getting to an April Fool's video from me. Live with it. Something also helpful is that text-to-speech doesn't really have an emotional range, so I only need to do one take as more takes would be a waste of time. As long as there are no spelling errors, this should go smoothly. Oh fuck, so the plot of this game is that a pastiche of the Indy 500 has come to Cartown and Putt needs to gather the following supplies to be allowed entry.
Hi, Redline Rick.
Well, if it isn't my little buddy Putt, are you here to sign on up for the big Cartown 500 race? If you want to be a race car, you have to be able to grip the road, race like the Dickens, and always keep safety first. So you might have to get some things. Here's a list of all the things you'll need to get. You'll need high-powered, high-octane gasoline, super speed radio racing tires, a safety helmet for Pep, and a triangular flag with the number 5 on it.
You know, humongous games often get jokingly compared online to early Pixar, as some worlds happen to be dead similar, so I have to say it's funny how it took Putt 5 main games before the developers realized he could participate in a racetrack when it only took the Cars franchise about 5 minutes.
Thanks, Redline Rick. I can't wait.
Oh whoops, there's an elephant in this room, and no, I don't mean the neo-fascists. This was the first of 3 Putt mainline games where his voice actor was replaced. From as far back as his pixelated trip to the parade, he was voiced by Jason Ellefson, but suddenly when going to the races he was now voiced by Nancy Cartwright. Yes. That Nancy Cartwright, Humongous clearly had a bigger budget if they could afford such a recognizable voice. Not even the only time, considering Pamela Adlon voiced Pajama Sam. By the by, remember that Microsoft Mark is the one talking in this episode and not Wyatt. If Jason or Pamela or Nancy's name were mispronounced, that's the software and not me, the script writer. I didn't mispronounce
I know! I can get whatever I need in Cartown!
Let's take a look around Cartown for a bit first. Like normally you have a way to change Putt's paint job, but there is also a car wash, a fire station, a farm, a grocery store, a milkshake bar, a tire emporium, a toy store, a library, a construction site, a tunnel, a junkyard, and several homes for the NPC cars. Many of said NPC cars are actually from previous games, as far back as Rover from Goes to the Moon to as recent as Outback Al from Saves the Zoo. While on the subject, I'd also like to share a gripe I have with the design choices. I've seen some people complain about Outback Al just having a real human chin, but for me, I don't really care for the heavy lipstick on some of the women cars. There's an old animation principle that if you want to tell the difference between a male and female design, you just slap eyelashes on the girls and you're done, which is silly to begin with, but here we go a step further and lay their lipstick on the lady cars. I wouldn't call it offensive or anything, it's just silly. Most notable on the bulldozer here, who genuinely reminds me of those old Dairy Queen commercials.
Now when you buy any food item at Dairy Queen.
You may have also noticed in some of these shots that there are these empty green bottles, and that's not decoration. You can click on these to make Putt pick them up and then bring them to the junkyard as one of the 2 ways you make money in this game. Money seems to be pennies, by the way, as the cent sign is used, but Putt and the other character refer to them as coins, so for all I know these are pirate doubloons. The Cartown economy confuses me, especially considering you also get stuff for free in this game just like the other ones. The other way to make money is by going to the stereotype grocery store car and picking a whole 3 foods for him.
How'd you like to do me a favor and go out on the farm and pick me up some more, huh?
Sure! What do you need, Mr. Baldini?
Well, let me see. I need a 1 tomato, a 1 ear of corn, and a 1 bunch of broccoli.
Okay, I can get that.
Excellent. You bring them back to me in this box, and I'll give you 2 coins, Putt.
Gee, thanks. I could use some coins, Mr. Baldini.
Playing this part again, it's not as boring as I remembered it being as a kid. Not to say it's quick-paced or anything, it's just less tedious than some of the other moments. This means it's not so bad if the random number generator doesn't give you too many bottles, so at the end of the day you really are getting money for nothing. Tedium is the word of the day for this game though. Sadly, this Putt game is bogged down harder than you might think for one of the later entries. Here's a tip for those who pick it up on Steam: the escape key. I don't see other reviewers mention this, but in humongous entertainment games you can hit the escape key and skip any cutscene. From the actual cutscenes of characters talking to as simple as moving to the next screen. Here's some video proof, an unedited clip of me recycling 3 bottles for a penny.
All I'll need to put in 2 more bottles before I can recycle them. I'll need to put in 1 more bottle before I can recycle them.
Now here's an unedited clip of me recycling 3 bottles, but I mashed the escape key the whole time. See, world of difference, and basically necessary if you have to do the hubcap puzzle. See, this dog is supposed to bark if you get close to the area you have to dig, but the wait that it takes for the dog's AI to remember to do that is very long, so you really should just mash the escape key and dig the backyard until you find all 4 hubcaps. I don't want to know how long this would have taken me without the shortcut.
Hot ziggity! Would you look at this? A hubcap, some ancient treasure. Guess what? I found all 4 hubcaps, precious ancient treasures, and an old gas can.
You can keep the gas can, Putt. You earned it.
I like how that's supposed to be a joke that she's a greedy adult cheating me, but after the damage I did to her garden I think I'm the one cheating her. Pretty sure that was more than $20,000 minimum, and hope that ancient treasure is worth something.
Here you go.
Thanks. What do I owe you?
Are you kidding? I owe you. I mean, you're the guy who brought me back from the moon. It's free to you, Putt, always.
Gee, Rover, that's really nice.
Let's go back to that list for a second.
High-powered, high-octane gasoline, super speedy radio racing tires, a safety helmet for Pep, and a triangular flag with the number 5 on it.
In Saves the Zoo I said I'd rather not explain every solution since you can buy the game, but did give one solution to set the tone for how that game plays. For this one I've got something a bit better. See, I said that this game has different solutions on repeat, but I never said that was true for every object. No matter how many times you play, you always get the tires the exact same way. Each of the other times has a grand total of 2 possible ways to earn them. Even then, what I discovered, or at least remembered on this playthrough, is that for some weird reason the opposite solution is still hard-coded into the game, for lack of a better word. See me putting this random crap on a shelf? That's one of the ways you get the gaskin, but notice the game is letting me do it anyway despite that wasn't how I got the gaskin this playthrough. See me hammering these nails? For some reason it's being treated like a fun minigame when in reality this is how you earn the helmet half of the time, just not on this playthrough. So let's do the tires then, since there's no real variation anyway.
Putt, how's my little buddy?
I'm fine, Chuck, but what happened to you?
Oh, one of my rubber radials hit a nail, popped it like a balloon. I'm one stuck Chuck.
Maybe I can help.
If you would, I'd be a happy tow truck. How's about heading over to my tire setter and picking me up a tire patch kit? And judging by my tire, you'll need to cut it into a triangle.
You get the patches Chuck said, then go to the library and cut which of the shapes you need. The closest thing to variation here is that it's not always a triangle like it was this time. Also, you don't need to cut perfectly, just a heads up. Now that Chuck is fixed, he'll happily help us get those racing tires.
Chuck, I was wondering if I could buy a set of those super speedy radial racing tires.
Best tire on the market. And am I ever gonna make you a deal since you helped me out today? Normally they're 2 coins apiece, but for you, I'll give you all 4 tires for only 4 coins. That's a savings of 4 whole coins.
What?
You mean to tell me that after saving your life the best thing you can do is a buy one get one? Being stranded on the side of the road didn't outweigh having BOGO on the brain. This is why I bothered telling you how to earn cash, as it is needed every single time because of this solution. It's not even the only thing you can use money on either. You need 3 cents to paint Putt and 2 cents to wash him, and while both are optional it's not like you're going to want to leave Putt purple after the paint job. Switching has been such a fun thing to do in the past games, and as for the car wash, while I'm pretty sure it is not required, there was a good deal of work put into the animation, so skipping it seems silly. So basically, earn at least 9 coins and you can do everything, and both methods are easy yet tedious. You don't need money for anything else, it's all gifted to you through a puzzle solution or just by clicking on it. That includes the
extra high-powered, high-octane gasoline. Fill her up!
which seems the weirdest to me, as regular gas being free actually does make some form of sense in a world of cars, as gas would sort of be like water and you get water for free at restaurants and the like. The premium stuff being free is like Coca-Cola being free at a restaurant, and that's a bit harder to swallow, but at least that's less bottles to recycle.
Hey, it's Chuck, and it looks like he's in trouble.
Once you have all of the items, you automatically go enter the race. Something interesting here is that you don't actually have to win the race. If you lose, you lose, and Putt handles it like a champ and says he had fun. But I'm an adult and play video games to win.
Contestants, start your engines. Go! How about that? First place! You were cruising! Good job out there, Putt Putt!
Thanks, Redline Rick!
So how about it? You want to race again?
I would have done it twice to get the footage of losing, but the race is kind of stiff and not the most fun to play. Winning still felt good because of that, to be fair, so it's hard to say if I wish it was a bit easier, as that would be more fun, or if that makes a slight challenge for younger players which makes it more rewarding. That will likely vary from person to person, but I think if I have to take a stance, then I wish the race was a bit easier, as the difficulty really was from stiffness of the controls and just how ridiculously hazardous some of the lanes were, as that is randomly generated, meaning sometimes it's just not fair, especially with the stiff controls. I think playing this once again, I've discovered why Putt Putt enters the race is not as talked about. On paper, this should be the best Putt Putt game, think about it. There's tons of continuity callbacks, it's one of the only ones to have different puzzle solutions, the animation is really good, and there's a money system that allows options for how the player earns said money. But in reality what happened was that there's a bigger feeling of tedium than usual for Putt Putt, and the one puzzle without a branching path sticks out like a sore thumb against the other ones. At the end of the day, enters the race lands somewhere in the middle for the series. I can see why some people are more nostalgic to the older pixelated ones, and as someone who prefers the later entires, I don't pick this one nearly as often. If Saves the Zoo was a 7 out of 10, I'd say Enters the Race is around a 6. I even like the next Putt Putt game I plan on reviewing more than this entry, and no, it's still not the one you're probably expecting.
I think it's going to rain! Good morning, Mr. Krabby.
I wasn't kidding at the end of my Putt Putt Saves the Review. What? During my Putt Putt Saves the View episode... What the... For the record, I am laughing this hard because, yes, I suddenly pictured the show, The View, with the panel of hosts, and Putt Putt there right in the middle. I don't even know who's on The View. I don't even know who's on it, but the image is still there somehow. Alright. Let's do this again. I wasn't kidding when I said in my Putt Putt Saves the Zoo episode that I was a much bigger fan of Putt Putt's peers, and in particular, I have a deep love for Freddi Fish. It's the franchise I go back to the most out of all of Humongous Entertainment, and Freddi Fish was also the first one that I played, so is it a shock it's the one I connect to the most? Although, as you see from the title, this episode I'm going to discuss some of the reasons why Freddi Fish 2 is my least favorite out of the 5 main Freddi Fish games. This is also the rough order we're going to go in for the Freddi Fish mainline games. We're going to go from my personal least favorite to my personal favorites. Now, yeah, where are the spin-off games going to take place then? I don't really know, but at least it's a better concrete plan for what I have with Putt Putt going forward, Spy Fox when I tackle that, and Pajama Sam when I cover that. I have no idea the order for Spy Fox. Putt Putt, I know what's next, and I know it should be after, but then I don't know when to do the rest, because there are just so many Putt Putt games. Don't hold me to this. Part of me thinks Pajama Sam would be best tackled in reverse chronological order, but again, don't quote me on it. Also, since I mentioned Freddi Fish spin-offs, I mean the ones for the computer, so Maze Madness and Water Worries. Yeah, I don't really have access to that DS game. I've also never played it. So if you were mad I'm calling Freddi Fish 2 the worst one when the DS one exists, I've never played it, but from what I understand, yeah, that's apparently the worst one. Way more people have pointed this out than myself, but you know it's bad when your game about spelling and grammar has a grammatical error in the title.
So I've got my essay written.
We're gonna do the structured chapter format, kind of like I did with Ready to Read with Pooh and DDLC+. Setting means two things for this game, as it's the first Freddi Fish game that I'm covering. I need to talk about the setting of the franchise, which in this case is the bottom of the ocean. Okay, so maybe it's a bias, as I've always loved worlds set in the depths of the sea, but also coming back to this after 2 Putt games, I felt this beautiful sense of return. The darker color palette gels with the brighter colors when they show up, and also works perfectly for the background as a whole. This feels like it's set on the ocean floor. It has the right geometry, the right feeling, and the perfect atmosphere. Everything I would expect from the location. Now, of course, then there's the other definition of setting, which would be the specific location for this entry, Freddi and Luther's school, and also the surrounding town. If the opening made me nostalgic for the franchise, then swimming into the school reminded me of the low points of this franchise. Call me crazy, but something about this specific layout feels off to me. The school itself is only a couple of clicks long, that surrounding town is only to the north, and the rest is just kind of randomly placed, well, kelp and the like. Sure, there's a submarine, which is a nice touch, but somehow there's also a f***ing coliseum. Something just feels haphazard in the placements here. I do like the areas sometimes, but I really don't like the connective tissue on a lot of them, and that makes the areas I don't like just stand out a lot more. I really won't be able to explain this without sounding like it's just a bias or anything like that. It's just that all the other Freddi Fish games, to me, their map building and structure just works better placement-wise. Things don't really connect as well as the other ones. I don't even know if I'll be able to bring it up in those other ones because it's just a thing I notice here because it doesn't work for me, where it works so well with the other ones, don't really think about it. Hell, look at the fishing hook area and look at how much empty space is here. It's only here to click on the fishing hook, and yet there's this big wide open area that you'd think would have other stuff. And not only that, the screen before it is where the Coliseum was. Do these look like the same areas? The closest I can give it positively is that these are both pretty far away from the town, which is good. I wouldn't really want a fishing hook right next to the town. That would kind of set off my scared senses. Oh no, how many of Freddi and Luther's close friends have been killed? But still, why couldn't you put it behind the cliffs, which is also pretty far away from the town? So much so, you gotta do the mud skipping minigame to get there. It would really showcase how dangerous the far-off waters are if that's where the fishing hook was. Instead, it's just behind the Coliseum that's here for no reason. It may be a silly hang-up, but when something takes you out of the experience a little bit, it's something to note, even if it's just nitpicking or just a personal preference thing. It might not bother some of you, but I have to bring it up because I don't like the map of this one. Alright, fine. What's the main setup for this game? You know, the plot.
I'll race you to school, Freddi! Where are all the guppies? We're hiding!
The guppies say the school is haunted by a ghost, and that the ghost is stealing their toys.
Boo!
Ah!
Hey, that's my toy! That couldn't have been real. There's no such thing as ghosts. Whoever is scaring the guppies is just wearing a ghost costume. I've got it! Let's build a trap to catch that phony. See? We already have almost everything we need.
So these are the 5 items I was tasked in finding for this playthrough.
A life preserver, a trident, a mock-stock Mibblebach Whopper Bopper, a wheel for the baby buggy, and a rope for our trap to be complete.
You'll see on this list from the wiki, all the Humongous games have their own wikis, which is kind of great. There's a grand total of 8 items you could possibly be tasked with finding. Many of the other Humongous Entertainment games went on the idea that it was either option A or option B for the multiple puzzles. So instead here, the game selects 5 out of 8 items. While it's nice to have something a tad different, that does also mean you'll be likely to see a lot of the same items on repeat. In fact, I was genuinely shocked that I didn't have to get the cork or the pulley, and I swear I always get those 2 items every f***ing time I've gone back to this game, for a couple years by this point. Speaking of the pulley, I think we'll actually pretend for 1 second I did get that. It's something I've got to talk about. It's sold by this octopus for a grand total of 5 purple sea urchins. You may have already noticed in the footage, I have been collecting the urchins anyway. I didn't get the pulley, so why are the urchins even spawning in the first place? That's the weird thing. See, there is no purpose for them in gameplay, but they kind of have to spawn. I ended up finding out later why. If you don't have to get the pulley, you trade him 1 urchin for individual stories about the pulleys? Hey everybody, 4 in the morning, background refrigerator white here. I think the wiki is wrong, because when I looked back at the footage, I clicked on the octopus, and he sang a song about the backstory of the... No, I clicked on a pulley, and the octopus sang a song about the backstory of the pulley.
I'll bet there's a neat story behind that pulley.
The Flying Dutchman?
We hear rhyming abounds in your pulley emporium.
Just point to a pulley. I've got a whole store of them.
Maybe future stories you pay for? But I don't remember that happening ever in all the times I've played this. I think the wiki is just wrong. You really do just get the sea urchins for no reason at all if you don't need the pulley. Imagine going to a store where you can give a whole $1 to the owner to hear a story about one of the things he might sell you. The other thing about those urchins spawning in this playthrough is that 4 spawned. Remember how I said you need 5 to buy the pulley? A secret 5th urchin spawns only if you need to buy the pulley. And it's always in the exact same location too, but said location actually requires a puzzle with its own unique elements that do not spawn, just like that 5th urchin, unless you need to buy the pulley. The urchins are always mandatory to spawn in these games, and this is just the one where I don't think they did that good a job at doing so. Let's move on to an actual solution for an item I did have to get.
A mock-stock Mibblebach Whopper Bopper.
This kind of gadget is kind of a Freddi Fish staple, so it feels right that I had to get it. Alright, anyway, the seller is the Manta Ray, named Ray, who, as an adult, is very clearly meant to parody those guys who sell fake watches, which is a thing I'd be surprised to hear still existed.
A very hot item, I might add.
Luther! That's one of the things we need to build a trap. How much does a mock-stock Mibblebach Whopper Bopper go for?
This is way under my cost, but since you're such swell-looking kids, I'll let you have it for 1 slightly used trophy.
Okay, off with that. You want a diamond mine next? We're out here catching criminals and you're trying to get rich quick. 100 purple sea urchins says that the second we leave, he's gonna go call some old folks to tell them that their car's extended warranty is about to expire. So the slightly used trophy in question actually belongs to Freddi, who gave it to this local museum. We go to the museum, we get this slip of paper that says how to go to the guy who installed the security, so that way he can undo the security so we can get it. Although he does this right after misgendering Freddi.
Hey, you giving me the business?
Your business card, sir.
Well, so it is. You boys will be wanting a combination to the trophy case.
Excuse me, sir, but I'm not a boy. I'm a girl.
Hey, that's a coincidence. So's Mrs. Triplefin.
Get the combo, we give the trophy to Ray, and Ray gives us the thing I'm not saying again.
Nice quality. Kid, you just made the deal of the century.
There's definitely more steps here than the kinds of puzzles I was just solving for Putt in the 2 games I covered already. Makes sense. Freddi was aimed at a slightly older crowd of kids than the Putt games. Needs to be a little bit harder, although clearly not much harder. So it's not hard per se, but, I mean, as someone who was in the demographic when they first played this game, it's not like the solutions immediately jumped out to me. I'd actually say, like all the other Freddi games, it's a pretty good mix. What I can't say was done super well would be the villains of this game. So fun fact, this is the only mainline Freddi Fish game to force a repeat on the villain. I have to say force, because in 3 and 4, there were multiple options for who could be the villain of that game, because it went for a more detective kind of go-around. And there were some repeat characters there, and by some, I mean 1. But this is the time where it's forced. No matter what you do, or what the game decides, it's always the Squid Father and his shark goons, who are the villains of Freddi Fish 2, just like they were in Freddi Fish 1. I wish it hadn't been them, though. They really suck in this game. They've been really retconned in how evil of a force they were. In the first game, the Squid Father was this truly menacing presence, a ruthless and complete total monster, willing to let completely innocent fish die just for some money. As for this game, spoiler warning for the ending.
It's Freddi Fish!
And Luther. How could you two scare the poor little guppies and steal their toys?
The Squid Father told us to, 'cause he's never had any.
You should know that you can't just take things that belong to someone else.
You know, she just might have a point there, boys.
This is not even a good joke. And this isn't like a thing I'm looking back on as an adult and thinking is a weird retcon. When I was a kid and played this for the first time, I thought it was stupid then. What's this weird attempt at a tragedy for the character? If you want to suddenly add some tragedy to the Squid Father, sure, let's have some more complexity. This isn't the way to do it, though. Heck, you could even still reuse his motive from the last game. Just have him sell the kids' toys. What kind of monster would steal toys from children just to sell them back? Probably the same one who would commit genocide for petty cash. But again, if you want to make it more morally complex, fine. You didn't do it very well, though. Then, of course, you get his shark minions. Now, the sharks in the last game didn't interact with Freddi and Luther all that much. And with good reason, because you would just assume they'd eat the kids if they came across them. Now, Spongehead was dumb in the first game, but Boss was the enforcer who had a clear goal and was clearly only slightly less ruthless than the Squid Father. When it comes to this game, their bite is nothing short of completely gone. They aren't killers, they're barely even pests. If you told me these two sharks were vegetarians, I'd f***ing believe you. It's a massive downgrade and says a lot that the next appearance of Spongehead was a random enemy for the spin-off game. And it's 10 times more threatening than the 3 characters showing in this game. One more returning antagonist would be Eddie the Eel, and I'm actually not so mad about this one. I've seen some fans who think he's been downgraded, just like the other characters were. I'm actually in disagreement, so I can give the game one thing about that. My reasoning is, Eddie was always just kind of a windbag whose bark was bigger than his bite, and just stand there telling you he'll totally eat you, but never did. So he's the same character. He didn't get a retcon, it's just he's in a less menacing lair now. That's it. The only downgrade he gets other than that is that his song sucks, but can't really call that too different from the rest of the game.
I've had my breakfast. I've got my books.
I'm a manta ray who loves to trade for things. I'll gobble you up without even a wink, then I'll clean my dishes in the sink.
When I was a schoolfish, even younger than you, school was 20 miles upstream and through ice too.
This wasn't normally a problem for Humongous Entertainment games either. I really can't remember another game where the entire soundtrack was this weak. Music matters. Not just stuff like background music either. The Rita Rabbit spin-off, and also Ready to Read with Pooh, those musical numbers were so good that in between writing the reviews, I actually took my footage and copied the songs by themselves so I could play them whenever I wanted. You're not gonna catch me doing that here.
Life on the sea is fun galore, 'cause you don't have to wash or wax the ocean floor. Hey, nanny, nanny, and a hot cha-cha.
First off, we have the chalkboard, which many of you might not even count as a minigame, but I have to because I ended up messing around with it for way longer than I thought I was going to. There's a good selection of colors. The pre-made stamps, or designs, whatever you want to call them, they got a nice variety. You can also change the size from small to large, and that's just the kind of thing they never needed to do, and they did. No complaints. It's probably the best thing to do in the school. Now, if you want to count this as a minigame, I gotta go into a quick spoiler for this one. But you know how I had to get a trident? You get that trident in the Coliseum through this sliding puzzle that is on the ceiling. Here's the funny thing though, and why I have to include it in the minigame section. You don't have to solve the puzzle to get the trident, you just have to get the tile just above the trident to be an empty slot. That's it. You don't have to solve the puzzle at all. That is a thing you can do for fun if you want to. I don't think sliding puzzles are all that fun, so sorry, got no footage of me finishing it, because I didn't do it. That's of course a movie theater, because there's always these fun little cutscene things in the Freddi Fish games. But now for the real minigame.
It's Crab Invaders!
Which is this Space Invaders ripoff, where Luther murders a bunch of crabs, just like with the chalkboard. I kind of forgot I was recording and just had genuine fun. To go back to the Putt minigames from the ones I've already covered, they boiled down to scoring 2 hockey goals and then me giving up because I was bored. And this marble pinball thing where the footage ended up in the end credits because I couldn't think of anything to say. But Crab Invaders is a clone of a very fun arcade game and knows exactly why that formula works. There's even a shocking amount of polish in this thing. Luther is spitting to kill these crabs, but gravity is in effect. Look, see? I missed the crab because I was too early, but then, on the rebound, it managed to still hit. You can also get the spit to land on Luther as well if you don't move out of the way. Speaking of landing on Luther, the crabs can land on him as well, which will cause him to get dunked into the water, and it is a hard tradition for me to make sure the last crab always does that. Yeah, forget catching the ghosts. This is the real game. The weakest mainline Freddi Fish game is still a mainline Freddi Fish game. Something I can come back to for charm alone, and that I really do have fun with. The mystery and the characters don't sell me on this one, but the minigames are a blast. And the art style is just so beautifully good that it's easy to forget some of the game's flaws sometimes. And just a reminder before you get mad, I did say worst mainline game. I don't know if the DS game is worse, other than what I've heard. And when it comes to whether or not this is better than Maze Madness or Water Worries, I'll keep that in mind, because we'll find out when we find out. Although I will say, it's less weird than whatever the f this was. I discovered this a good decade or so ago, and I still have no idea what on earth this is. Why are they in CG? Why are they real kids? Is this a dance craze I never heard about? What language is this in? I never even found that out. Which kind of shows my hand here that I haven't done too much research. But then again, you get my point, right? What on earth happened here? Under a partnership between Scholastic and Microsoft Kids, we saw a big slew of the Magic School Bus computer games. Now, quite a while back, I looked at one of those games. I looked at the Magic School Bus Explores the World of Animals. And now, today, we are going to look at the Magic School Bus Explores in the Age of Dinosaurs. So because I had to detour from true educational games to the humongous entertainment games, a thing I haven't been able to talk about for a while is actual education value in the computer games. So if you go back to those earlier stuff, that was a big proponent. I felt it was important to talk about how good the educational values were presented and how worthy the educational values were. And it would be really nice if I could do the same thing for this next game, but it's about dinosaurs. It came out in the 1990s. I'll be real with y'all, I couldn't even bother to try and see which facts were accurate or no longer accurate. It's just a big old kettle of worms. But I guess we'll just have to continue this dinosaur adventure while I talk about the Magic School Bus Dinosaurs in this month of June, where we will look at this game with dinosaurs. We'll look at this big old world built in this game that covers Cretaceous, Triassic, Jurassic. Algorithm, please. Let's quickly discuss the plot first.
This is my photo album from my last journey to the Age of Dinosaurs. Liz and I were taking pictures of reptiles that aren't dinosaurs. Oh dear, one of my photos is gone, and I need your help to replace it.
So the difficulty on this one is much more toned down than the animal game, unless you get a little bit creative with it. If you click all three of the jewels, your very last hint is just going to be the location that that dinosaur or dinosaur-like creature is in. Makes all the sleuthing and investigative work useless. Just go to that area and snapshot anything that sounds remotely close to what they were looking for. And there's only like 4 dinosaurs on each world map thing, so you'll figure it out. Of course, that being said, you could just try to figure it out by only clicking the first 2 jewels, or maybe even just the first jewel. Now, if you're hoping for some footage of what these pictures look like after I take them from Miss Frizzle, you're a little out of luck with my copy. I just went for the biggest one. Oh boy! This is the risk you always take getting old PC games, and let me tell you, it never stops being funny. So by the way, if you couldn't figure from the live recorded thing, if you go on my side channel, I have a whole little Let's Play dealie where I just played the game for a while. It's good stuff over there, and you'll even find out what you get when you win the game. What a nice thing. Alright, so the other things I can talk about is the presentation. And while I do still think the animal one was a little bit better looks-wise, I won't lie, there's a real big charm to the art style here. Some stuff is hand-drawn, specifically, not just all the main characters, but you can transition between world to world as long as it is in the same part of the Mesozoic era. And the bus will walk over there with a nice little transition of a dinosaur looking at the camera. But that's only when you're within the same time period. When you decide to switch to a different time period, you gotta go in the bus and then click one of the dots. Once you do, the bus then has an anime transformation sequence, which is actually pretty well animated and kind of gets you hyped. So as you jump from location to location, you will see a decent variety of different dinosaurs and different dinosaur-like creatures. Again, there's not too many, but thanks to the way that the game is built with all these different locations, it is a nice variety of creatures after you see all of them. Now here's just a few examples. There's this one. He's a dinosaur. There's this one who won't share. These ones lived in the ocean. That's Arnold. So while the game can't do too many at once, at least it knew that and gave you enough areas. Wouldn't be surprised to find out if there were technical limitations that gave them less dinosaurs per screen than they would have liked. Still, I appreciate the variety. But of course, the real make it or break it is how good are the mini-games here. The Magic School Bus games are always chock full of mini-games, and I've got to say, there really is an interesting variety here. I played a good amount of the mini-games in the other video I made for the side channel, so because of that, of all the games I exclusively saved just for private recordings, I'm only going to top out the ones that I felt really had something really going for them that needed further discussion. Some of them are just so simple that they're just a fun little experience and there's not much to say. But some were just a tad bit deeper, so here's an explanation. This was a bit of a classic. You gotta climb up the volcano while the meteors are running down, and you gotta get all the bushes cause you're hungry. Kind of frantic. I feel like the controls are a little bit odd. I had some difficulty climbing up and down the rock ladders, which is even worse when they start moving left to right. At the same time though, it's fun. I just gotta say this right now, most of the minigames were just really fun. This was another classic to me as I played it a lot when I was younger. You play as a mother protecting her babies and you ram these carnivores so hard they turn to dust instantly. Now, one that should be a winner but kind of isn't is... Well, you ever play the Magic School Bus PC games and go, man, I wish I was playing a board game?
It's wild, it's crazy, it's Dino Madness!
Welcome to Dino Madness, the only dinosaur board game this side of the Cenozoic era. I'm Baryonyx, and I'll be your host as you travel through the age of dinosaurs to get your Paleo Card prize. Mwah!
It's an interesting concept, all things considered. It's a game show style format, but an actual board game. You actually have to click on the dice, and they shake for your roll. And what's even more interesting, and is something I just would not have expected, there's two-player competitive play. So if you have a real-life person beside you on the computer, you can actually play the board game against them. If you don't, then you just play against Liz as an AI computer opponent. So hey, if you have this game and you have some friends over, you know, they want to play Counter-Strike, they want to play TF2, Halo, Roblox, that, you got the Magic School Bus Explores the Age of Dinosaurs, motherf***.
Yes, you're right about that. You're on your way to winning fabulous Paleo Card prizes. I've never known you to be patient, Cousin Liz. It's your turn to roll the dice.
So the board game takes way too long? I didn't finish playing it. Sorry, which is a shame, because you don't just get one Paleo card when you win this game. If memory serves, it is somewhere between 3 and 5. So the game will reward you heavily for having the patience to go all the way through. It's as if the developers knew that this game takes way longer than the others. With the other ones, such as say the Volcano one, you get a Paleo card just for defeating a stage, which, you know, can take less than a minute. Same thing with evaporating the carnivore dinosaurs to protect your babies. Oh yeah, paleo cards. That's an interesting mechanic too that really adds a level to all of the mini games, as you get them for pretty much all of them. But a paleo card is just a stone tablet with a dinosaur on it or dinosaur-like creature. And you get its picture, you find out how to pronounce the darn thing, and on the back you get, well, its stats, if you will. How big it was in both meters and feet, which is really cool they went that far. How much it usually weighed in kilograms and in pounds, which again is a really neat little thing and a nice extra mile. You get the location that its fossils are typically found, and the era of time that it was actually alive according to the fossils. It's definitely a really nerdy prize, but you're playing a Magic School Bus game. I really like this feature, and it makes even the more stressful and boring mini games really worth playing. It's nice collecting these, and I got a funny feeling that the Pog and Pokemon card craze probably helped create this idea, but I'm not gonna complain.
Goodbye, and I hope you come back soon to see me, Baryonyx, your board game host.
So, we've now explored the age of dinosaurs with the Magic School Bus. So while the educational value here is probably nil, because dinosaur facts have been one of the most changing things since the 90s, it's the Magic School Bus game I feel would need a super from the ground up remake, if such a thing was possible, and I know it's not, just to rework the facts so they're more correct. But there's so much good here. The mini games are pretty darn fun and have a nice different incentive other than just winning with the whole paleo card thing. The animation is still great, the banter is still pretty funny. It's still a really fun game that, if you can find a copy in a Goodwill, I guess go pick up. This was a nice thing to revisit. Although, you know, when it comes to being around a world full of these Jurassic dinosaurs, all I'm thinking is this would be much better if Sam Neill was in the picture. I'm a big fan of In the Mouth of Madness.
Thank you for flying Frizzle Air, and we hope you enjoy your stay 70 million years ago in Cretaceous Alberta. Watch the predators, please, and have a good day. Bye-bye!
Winner of the Best Children's Computer Entertainment Title Award, Disney's Villain's Revenge is still a beloved game and a highlight of Disney Interactive. Unlike the last Disney Interactive game I looked at, and also unlike most of the retro PC games I review here, this was not an edutainment title, and just a straightforward point-and-click adventure game featuring many Disney properties. The best way to break this game down would be to effectively give a plot recap with jokes, like the old days of internet criticism. So if you haven't played the game before, this is your warning. This game isn't readily available anymore anyway either, so honestly, if I were you, I'd just watch the video. Maybe like and subscribe. It's your call.
Oh, hi there. Cricket's the name. Jiminy Cricket. Have you ever heard of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Peter Pan, Dumbo, or Alice in Wonderland? Go in a kingdom far, far away, in a quaint little cottage, deep within a beautiful enchanted forest, there lived a... Oh, pardon me. It's just that I've been reading these stories for so many years and... I'll take out each of the happy ending pages, then you can guess which story to put them back into. Sort of like a game.
So Jiminy destroys a work of art for the sake of pointless fun and unleashes chaos onto the world. By removing the happy endings to 4 Disney classics, we now have to work together to defeat the evils of Captain Hook, the Queen of Hearts, the Evil Queen, and the Ringmaster from Dumbo. The Ringmaster from Dumbo? Alright, so there's genuinely discourse over this inclusion in the game, and I get why. People have argued if he's even a villain, which frankly, after rewatching Dumbo last year, I do think he fits the bill. I'm just not so sure he was the most evil character in the movie. Why the gossiping elephants weren't picked over him, we'll never know. His threat level seems a bit weird though when you look at the other picks. Come to think of it, I also think it's weird the Queen of Hearts is a villain who needs revenge, since, well, sorry for those late to the party, but Wonderland is just a dream Alice has? In both the original book and the Disney film. So in the context of her story, she doesn't actually exist. How can she get revenge? This isn't the only Disney game to retcon Wonderland as being real, though, so maybe that's the case. That's a Disney game that is still readily available for purchase. All 4 of the villains are from very early Disney films. There's 2 from the Golden Era and 2 from the Silver Era. And there's also 2 male and 2 female, which to me feels like a very smart marketing point. You can market the game to boys, and you can market the game to girls. Now, as for using classics instead of, say, current films, you know, for the time, I think that was the right call too. And this game was released in 1999, which was the tail end of the Disney Renaissance. So while it probably would have driven sales up to have those really recent villains, it also does feel better to have it be just the classic ones. I'd love to fight Gaston or Jafar in this game, but they didn't have the history or the gravitas, even with the amazing critical reception that they got at the time. Now, since they did just stick to the older Disney films, I don't blame them for skipping over the Dark Age or the packaged era, because at best those films are cult classics. Pretty hard to push a game when you fight Ratigan or Madame Medusa, you know? A couple people certainly would have jumped on board, but probably not enough to justify the whole game. So why did these 4 win out? Well, here's the leftover villains of the Gold and Silver films. I've seen people online say that since Jiminy and the Blue Fairy are in this game, it feels weird to not have a Pinocchio villain. I'm actually of the opposite opinion because this is a game about Disney villains seeking revenge. And once again, late to the party warning, Pinocchio's villains didn't pay for their crimes. They don't need to get revenge. Now also, characters like Maleficent and Madame Mim, they're sorcerers. And so is the Evil Queen. So, if you only have to pick one of that type, the Evil Queen is the one who deserves to win. She's the first Disney villain. I guess with the leftovers, it's more of a pick and choose situation, you know? I kind of do feel like Cruella de Vil could have been used instead of the Ringmaster, or maybe Chernabog instead of the Queen of Hearts. That's just me, but what do you guys think?
Hello there!
Oh, hello.
I'm out, and you're out too.
No, I'm not. My name is In. How could you forget that? I live right next door to you.
Don't start.
Alright, so to be allowed into the book, we have to solve this hidden object puzzle of heroes who are carved into a door.
Our guest must do what's right and help the storybook heroes.
You have to try to find the Cheshire Cat.
What the f***?
Let's find TikTok from the story of Peter Pan.
He's not harmless. He's killed 27 children, but, you know, we got him to, I think he's agreed to do this.
Hey, what's up, Doc?
Try to remember who we work for. Our guest has just proven that they know what all of the storybook heroes look like, and they're ready to enter.
Now see, this is why I like to play these games on the original disc. Really adds to the experience, you know? What would the video be without this?
Whoa! These things sure look familiar. Hey, they're all from the different stories. Pick one.
Alright, let's go with Captain Hook first.
The only thing scarier than that big skull is the big guy he used to belong to.
So much for never growing up, eh, Peter?
you bore me. What say you to this? We just call this a win for me, and you can settle in early this evening and retire. Forever!
Go on, pick it up, and use it to run this old codfish through the gizzard.
Kill all the son of a bitch. You disembowel him. You burn down his children. You cut off his dick.
If you've got a taste for cold steel, then get up here, you scurvy swab!
So we have a one-on-one swords fight with Hook. Now, for the sake of time, I did select easy difficulty, but I played this game a lot as a kid, so much so I even beat it on hard at least once. So I have a good memory of the differences, but you know, grain of salt here. Hook's attacks are blocked simply by having your sword where he's about to strike. This little shield icon is here to help you, only on the easier difficulties though. Get him in front of the crow's nest here, then move the sword to the top of the screen so you can push him back. After he falls down, Hook will be joined by other pirates, who serve as a challenge to beat before you can fight him again. You know, typical video game boss fight strategy. Now you gotta deal with my henchmen before you fight me again. The pirates will crawl up these ropes here, you block the first one, and then you murder the other. And the shields are gone on hard, so you really have to pay attention. Split second here, who moves first. But if you're fast enough, you can also kill both of them. It's not easy. Even on easy here, I only was able to do it once, because if you try to do it on the guy who's going to go first, it's just not going to register that well. And then we get to a really interesting mechanic. When I first opened this game, it opened this screen here where I had to test the audio. It accurately calibrates left and right ear with headphones on. This was something I definitely did not appreciate as a kid because I just did not have a good enough computer sound setup. But it's full surround. You can hear from the left or from the right, and there's still some stuff in the center there for when a pirate swings into the middle. If you're playing without the shields that pop up on easy, so you don't get the visual indicator of which side the pirates are going to swing in from, you've gotta listen where they're screaming from, because that's the only way to block. It's something I appreciate way more as an adult who has done a lot of audio editing and now has an audio setup that requires decent headphones. Alright, Hook, let's finish this. Uh-oh. Yeah. So like I said, I used an actual CD-ROM. I went on eBay and I bought a factory-sealed big box copy. Never opened before, this nice, beautiful big box, everything pristine and perfect. And this still happened. Old computer games are really hard to work on newer computers, especially when it's not a full-on gaming computer, but even then. Computer games require so many different technical things that I just straight up don't understand. But basically, there's nothing actually wrong with the game, but some files just cannot be read by my computer because my computer is too new to figure out how to read something so old. And yeah, I really like using the actual CD-ROMs with these reviews because there's a charm when things go wrong, but only to a degree. And when it's something like it can harm the computer, or when I can't even actually beat the game, that's one of those things. I did test the disc for the other villains, and they did work. With the exception of that, there was a lot of slowdown and a lot of lag, annoyingly so. So don't get too mad at me when I admit what I had to do next. Look, I'm no saint. I used to watch illegal YouTube uploads of anime 10 minutes at a time, but this was the first time I emulated a game. And yeah, it's mostly going to be emulated footage from now on, because like I said, there was some genuine slowdown with the actual CD-ROM footage. I'm not going to say I'm not using it at all, and in fact on my side channel I'm going to show all of the footage from the CD-ROM in one big video, so check that out if you like. But yeah, I did have to resort to piracy. And isn't it irony of the fucking year that the first time I stooped to video game piracy was to beat a pirate in a video game. Captain Hook brought me down to his level, and that bastard is gonna pay.
You must never strike an unarmed man.
He has the power to crash this game, Blue Fairy. He's too dangerous to leave alive.
Say, Mrs. Jumbo, why the long trunk?
Because tonight the audience is filled with villains who just laugh at the most dreadful things. And worst of all, Dumbo can't fly anymore, but the clowns keep forcing him to do his high dive act, just so they can keep the audience entertained.
The Dumbo level is, simply put, the easiest one to do. It's the same solution every single time, and that's not a bad thing. It's a really nice breather with how hard, or at the very least how long and tedious, some of the other puzzles can be. As I said, I played this game a lot. I actually straight up just remember the solution to this puzzle from the get-go. And because of that, I was just gonna futz around and do some other stuff. But the big problem here is that Jiminy does not shut the up.
You know, you should put the beach ball where Bumpy keeps crashing. Make sure everything is set where you want it before you make Bumpy jump again. Hey, that looks like a good angle for the cannon. I think you should try to get him to land on the side of the teeter-totter that's closer to us. Hey, that wasn't that nice.
If you were hoping for way more footage of me messing around and doing funny things, just couldn't. I had limited patience for Jiminy just screaming the answer at me every 3 seconds. Don't worry though, I did find the time and the patience for this fun little Easter egg.
Uh-oh. Boy, that clown is a glutton for punishment.
Okay, now to the solution. Move the tarp over the water, the ball to the center.
Hey, that looks like a good angle for the cannon.
You put the line on the seesaw, and the water pressure on the valve needs to go all the way up.
Whoa! 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 Uh-oh. The water actually made that clown fly up in the air. You did it! You saved Dumbo! And not a minute too soon for Bumpy. Whoa! 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 Uh-oh.
Boom, problem solved, and like I said, that was from memory. Can't stress this. Played this one a lot as a kid. Let's go to Wonderland next and see how Alice is doing.
By order of the Queen, we have orders to be prepared to remove Alice's head!
Boy, those darn villains always seem to know when to chime in, don't they?
Oh dear, no! If I go home without my head, my mother will be so very unhappy with me.
Better late than ever.
Oh, this is the obvious joke, but I'm going for it. Gee, when did this become American McGee's Alice? This is the game where that sound feature is the most important and the most utilized.
Just follow my voice. It'll lead you right to me.
If you're looking down a path and you hear her the loudest, that's the path to go down. If the path is to your left, the sound's going to come from the left side. And the same, if it's on the right. It's on the right. Now there are other characters in the background who start chiming in. Once again, part of it is Jiminy. You also got the White Rabbit screaming how to leave the maze when you're ready for that. But it also sounds like the Mad Hatter and the March Hare are there? But their advice is not helpful. Which, yeah, what a surprise. You had to try to pay attention to only Alice. For the record, I did do this section twice, like I said, because I did really test the game to its capacity. And the second time I played it was so much easier because I just was able to memorize the exact sound volume that Alice is at on the right path choice.
The
This certainly
Look
is a
around
curious garden.
until you can figure out. Good work! This path will help us get to Alice.
This is such a good and well done mechanic. It's shockingly how well this bit of the game design has held up. As much as this is the most tedious puzzle, the fact that this works so well makes me still really like it, and I think I like it more now than I did as a child.
Why, there you are. I'm very surprised at you, though, running off like that.
So once you find Alice, well, congratulations. The first part is done. Remember what I said, the White Rabbit is screaming at you that he's going to show you the way out of the maze. So that's what you gotta do now. You gotta follow the White Rabbit, which is simpler than listening to Alice. So there's a few more difficulties. As you saw on the way in, there's some obstacles in the way, you just have to click and, they get out of your way. And because you're in the second half now, 2 more obstacles pop up. 1. There are guards in the middle of your path, and you have to use a paintbrush to paint the red roses white. For those who haven't seen Alice in Wonderland in a while, it's a reference to that. They had to paint the white roses red because the Queen of Hearts liked red roses. So, clever little callback. There's also a timer in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, so if you do not go down the right path within time, the guards catch you. Now, for those wondering, hey, if the guards catch you on one of the pathways out, is it an insta-kill? No, just like everything else, it just hits you for 1 health.
Oops! Sorry, officer.
They're royal guards, Jimbo, not cops. Did you misplace your bifocals perving on marionettes again?
Stop that Cheshire Cat!
So yeah, the door's called the Cheshire Cat a hero, and now he is here trying to kill us. The door is not just inconsistent with his character from the movie, it's inconsistent with the character within the game. Finding Alice is the longest game and the most stressful one, but I kind of mean that in the best way. It's really rewarding when you beat it, so yeah, I still think this is pretty good.
Here, eat this. It was very nice of you to save me, and my story. Please do drop by again.
Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs has one of my favorite happy endings. But I have a feeling things may have changed since the last time I read it. Hey, I'm over here!
Well, now the game is rubbing it in my face that Maleficent isn't here.
Ah, poor Snow White. In my version of the story, there is no prince to save you, and soon the 7 dwarfs will be joining you in eternal slumber.
That's not an empty threat, by the way. The sand is draining, even though you can't see it because of the graphics. And on higher difficulties, the timer is shorter. It did not happen in my playthrough, so I do not have the footage. But if you take too long, the Queen will systematically kill the dwarves one by one.
I'm sure you can find something in here to set things right. But remember, the Queen uses these potions to do her evil bidding. So try to stay on the straight and narrow. To make a thunderbolt. Here's something. To create a blast of wind. A potion for sleeping death. As your official conscience, I'm warning you, this one is bad news. Here we go. This is it. The potion to create someone's true love. May I? I think we got the wrong guy, but it's worth a try.
Well, thanks anyway, bub. See you in November. So what went wrong is that I used the wrong apple. The green ones aren't poisoned, so you have to make them poisoned. In fact, you also have to make the wind and the thunder, as the bottles are empty. So you have to make all 4 at the end of the day is what I'm saying. Like with Dumbo, these do not change. but of course it's notably harder because you cannot bring the book over with you. They are completely two separate screens. For this playthrough, I just took pictures on my phone. And in fact, I just kept those pictures on there, so the second time I played, I didn't even look at the damn book. A lot better than when I was a kid, where I had to actually draw the solutions out on paper. Which is how I found out they were always the same after I started recognizing that, because I think I threw the paper away the first few times. So almost every single bottle ends up being used. The only exceptions are this one bottle of gems that I didn't even click on, because you don't have to. The bottle of Sleeping Death, which Jiminy just refuses to let you use.
I wouldn't touch that if I were you.
And then, of course, the thing right next to it.
Aging potion. That's what the evil queen drinks to turn herself into that old hag.
Oh, alright, here we go then. Problem solved.
That's the stuff.
Hostess!
Wow, you did it! You actually fixed all of the stories. Now we just have to put these pages back in the book, and we're done. Hey! Who took all of the happy endings?
Yeah, we're not done just yet. There is one more final showdown with the surviving villains. On paper, it's simple. You just take the book and you bounce back the projectiles with it. But you do need to angle it correctly to hit the different things. And honestly, that adds a lot of difficulty to it. Now, when it comes to you taking damage, I'm not really sure what causes it. I missed some projectiles when I was pretty far from them, and it didn't seem to affect my health. And there were some projectiles where they did hit me, and those seemed to be when they were closer to where the book was. Maybe the game was calibrated so that way unfair hits wouldn't hit me, but it also could be because I played on easy, it took a few hits before something actually damaged me. I'm not sure, I'm just reporting what I'm seeing. So on the first phase of these fights, you have to bounce the projectiles back to the individual villains. They get hurt enough times and they decide to go back and hide. Once that, you gotta find where the fortress is and bounce the projectiles back into that. There is an indicator of what happens when they take damage, but there's not much of an indicator on how much damage needs to be done to them. So, you know, no visible health bars or anything, unlike you. Once you do get enough hits in, and you finally defeat these villains, you're rewarded with a full cutscene that shows their complete downfall.
So I grant you a surprise for the toys that you own.
The rush to victory is not your only reward. See, there were some toys laying around the room that if you clicked on them earlier, Jiminy would just tell you that.
You should try that toy later. I have a feeling you'll be in for a big surprise.
But, now that you've beaten the game, the Blue Fairy will activate them, so that way you can actually use the mini-games involved in them. There are these two music ones. The first one is Bumpy the Clown from the Dumbo level, and the guy gets smacked down and fed to the lion. He decides to reform and he'll dance for you. There's also the carousel just above the book, and it plays music. That's it. It's not even a mini-game, but it's pretty. I would say that the maze game here is kind of cool, but I don't really like mazes all that much. Look, if you were the kid who loved filling out the back of the cereal box maze, or if the mazes were your favorite part of Highlights magazine, this is your favorite part, man, and you know what? You're welcome to it. It's really well made. It's just not my thing. I mean, I struggled with it so much the game told me the solution about 4 times.
This game is a lot of fun. It's called Pirate Block.
I also could not figure out this one. It's Connect 6, and you know, that bit I do get. 6 in a row, up, down, or diagonal, that's easy. It's the capture mechanic that I could not work out. So again, you win by 6 in a row, but you can also block an opponent on both sides, and allegedly, you steal their pieces. But when I tried to do it, nothing happened. But when Captain Hook tried to do it, he just eviscerated me several times.
Oh well, better luck next time.
The computer is allowed to do it, but I'm not. You can also play with up to 3 other people. A whole 4-player game if that's your thing. And that is cool, except I'm not really sure when that would happen. The rest of the game is single player. And not only that, you need to beat the game to unlock this as an option. If you start a new save, it's not going to remember that. You'll have to beat the game again. So you not only need friends over, you need a complete save file for the game. Remember in the Magic School Bus Dinosaur game I just reviewed? And I gave some props for having 2 players in the board game section. You could go to that board game whenever you wanted, so it still wins over that. Especially considering at least I figured out how to play the board game. And yeah, sure, you could just pretend to be the second player, but I didn't have time for that. This last one, this is my favorite one. You take the 7 dwarves and go through their diamond mine. Each dwarf has a different ability unique to them.
Well, he just sleeps, but that mine car of his might come in handy. You know, to clear away some debris or something. That Sneezy, he has the most powerful sneeze I think I've ever seen. You know, it just might be strong enough to put out a fire.
So you strategize the solution, solve the problems to get from the top of the mine to the bottom of the mine. Oh, and you're on a timer, by the way. See, if Sleepy's minecart's line all the way up to the top, and remember you start on the top, you lose. It's an instant fail. I remember losing a lot of time with this game as a kid, just boot up Villain's Revenge just to play the dwarf minigame. And that will probably happen again sometime in the near future, but not with headphones on. This whistling sound was horrible with headphones on. I genuinely could not stand it. I made it about 3 levels in and said, nah, this is good. I don't want to have to go to the ear doctor. Like I said, I'll play it again sometime, but only when it's safe from ear holes. I've said before that when I think of Disney, one of the things that comes to mind is video games. And it's because of games like Villain's Revenge that I have the association. It's just a point-and-click adventure game that's heavily licensed, but it's a lot of fun and comes with a lot of different and interesting mechanics. It's hard to really rank all the retro PC games I play on here since most of them are educational, so they need to be looked at in a different light. But as a game that's just completely fun to play, you better believe I would highly recommend Villain's Revenge if they ever re-release it. And I look at it as a game I do not understand why they have not re-released it. I get the old educational games. It was a different market at the time that isn't really around anymore. But point and clicks have kind of made a comeback, so I think this one could be resold again. I went out and bought a physical version, and if they re-released it, I'll buy it again on every platform. Until then, I'm just going to be happy that I have a pristine jewel case and a nice big box to keep in my collection. Even if the game doesn't technically work.
Neutrogena Rapid Wrinkle Repair works in just 1 week.